What's up, y'all? Talon here, and today I'm back with another series of high-level rank battles featuring top teams in the Regulation E format. Today I have a team created by a Japanese player. Some of you might be familiar if you followed the 2022 season at all. This team was created by a Japanese player called Rinya, who got top 16 at the World Championships that year, I believe. Maybe it was top 8, but created the very notable team called Rinya Sun, which dominated basically from the start of the format to the end of it, getting multiple top cuts in the final 6 Pokemon, getting multiple top cuts in the actual tournament, and just an incredible team builder overall. Today we have a team that was featured by them. I believe they featured it to get really high on the rank battle ladder in one season, and we've actually been seeing it pop up at a lot of live tournaments. Most recently in the Lille Regional in France, Aurelien Sula took it to a second place finish overall, which is really incredible, just narrowly getting beat out by Simone Sanvito in the finals off of Game 2 at least came down to a double protect, so very, very dicey, a really strong team, probably led by an incredible player. So this is a rental code shared by Rinya themselves, so I will have the pokepaste with the EV spreads taken from this team in the description below. If you appreciate the resource and the time it takes to basically take those EV spreads and extract them from the rental code, please subscribe to the channel. And with all that being said, let's get into a breakdown of the team. So starting off up top, we have the very obvious Chien-Pao and Dragonite combination, which has been popular even before there were any metagames. We kind of knew Chien-Pao and Dragonite, the Sword of Ruin, lowering the defenses of opposing Pokemon by 25%, would make the already powerful Tera normal extreme speeds from Choice Band and Dragonite just sort of absurd levels, and that's still very strong today. The Chien-Pao running Icicle Crash so as not to hit into any rocky helmets, as well as you can't really run Ice Spinner when you have Rillaboom on the team because you'll be dispelling your own terrain, a bit of anti-synergy there. So yeah, we also have Sucker Punch and Sacred Sword as the last moves on the set in terms of attacking. Just really strong coverage overall there, as well as a little bit of priority in case you find yourself at a speed disadvantage. The Chien-Pao is a Ghost Tera, which is pretty common to resist or become immune to any Tera normal extreme speeds from opposing Pokemon, Fake Out, as well as fighting type moves into the Chien-Pao. That can be really favorable. And the Dragonite is also pretty standard. One thing of note, there is an Aqua Jet on this Dragonite. I think that's been kind of a more recent innovation. Not more recent innovation, but a more popular innovation in the West is to run Aqua Jet on your Choice Band Dragonite. So just so that in the late game, you do have an option to go for priority into Flutter Mane. Instead, this Dragonite has Stomping Tantrum, Aerial Ace, and Outrage as its attacking moves. I think Stomping Tantrum, definitely very strong into all the Heatran in the metagame. It's just generally a very solid coverage move, hitting a lot of what Extreme Speed does not for super effective damage. Next up is the Aerial Ace, which I think is really wise in a metagame with a lot of grass types. We see Rillaboom on our own team, Urshifu being able to hit those for super effective, and all the Ogre Pond forms being able to hit those super effective. That's definitely very appreciated. And the last move, if you're in a pinch, just being able to lock into an Outrage with Sword of Ruin on the field, you're basically able to take some really surprising KOs. You can even one-hit KO Iron Hands in the right circumstance if they don't have a ton of defense investment. So yeah, just a really solid move in that last slot. I think if you wanted to run the team yourself, you could slot out Aqua Jet for one of these moves, but without a lot of experience playing the team, I do think that these are overall pretty solid options, but it's just something to consider if you're running it for yourself. Urshifu is next on the team. Urshifu is also paired with the Sword of Ruin to really boost the Surging Strikes from the Choice Scarf set to absurd levels. You are missing out on a bit of power from not running Mystic Water, but of course the Sword of Ruin kind of compensates for that, and you gain a lot of speed to be able to outspeed and knock out slower Landorus, slower Choice Scarf Landorus. I believe this one is Adamant, I'm not sure, but if a Landorus for some reason wants to run Jolly, they can outspeed and knock you out with a Tera Flying if you don't go for a Tera yourself. But yeah, being able to outspeed and knock out things like other Chien-Pao, Flutter Mane is just really appreciated for a team like this. In terms of the other move, we have Close Combat, just a strong stab move. U-turn to be able to pivot out of an unfavorable lead. I think U-turn is just a very solid move in a metagame where Ogre Pond is really popular, as well as other Rillaboom. Being able to hit those for super effective, do a bit of chip, and then come in later in the battle and knock them out with a Close Combat can be really appreciated. And then the last move on the set is Aqua Jet. There are definitely situations where you find yourself in Tailwind against something like a Flutter Mane or a Chi-Yu, where a Sucker Punch plus Aqua Jet, especially in some circumstances, Tera Water Aqua Jet can actually pick up those KOs, so having that option is definitely more appreciated than something like an Ice Spinner or any other coverage move that you might otherwise want to use on your Urshifu. The Rillaboom is a really cool set. I believe this was, as far as I'm aware, the first time we've seen the Grassy Surge, Miracle Seed, Tera Grass Rillaboom. It was also featured to win the Sacramento Regional Championships on Andrew Zhang's team. I believe Rinya's team kind of predates that by a little bit, but I do know that Andrew created the team at the start of the format, so it's hard to tell. You know, it doesn't really matter who has credit for it. It is now just a very popular, incredible set. Just because with Miracle Seed plus Grassy Glide, Tera, Grass, you're able to pick up a lot of knockouts on frailer Pokemon like Fluttermane, and just generally less physically bulky Pokemon. And then if you go for a Tera Grass Woodhammer with Miracle Seed, with Chien-Pao on the field, I'm pretty sure that's a knockout on even something as bulky as Iron Hands. But yeah, just incredible power off of that. And then of course we have Fake Out for general utility. Having the ability to go for Fake Out next to a Urshifu on turn 1 really can apply a lot of pressure against opponents, and then Protect is just giving you some options to pivot. There isn't a lot of Protect on this team, so having Chien-Pao and Rillaboom be able to protect and stall out Tailwind or Trick Room turns is definitely necessary. Heatran is an Assault Vest, and if you haven't noticed yet, this team is actually very similar to the Michael Kelsch's Worlds finalist team, which also featured Chien-Pao, Urshifu, Rillaboom, Heatran, and Farigiraf, all with very similar sets. Michael originally had Citrus Berry Rillaboom before we had access to Grassy Glide, but I think the Miracle Seed Grassy Glide set does make a lot of sense here. And then the Heatran is once again Assault Vest. I think it might have been Tera Grass originally, but the presence of Ogerpon being able to hit it with a, basically after you've gone for Tera Grass, being able to knock it out with an Ivy Cudgel through Flash Fire with Mold Breaker. So for that reason, a lot of people have pivoted away from the Tera Grass and towards Tera Fairy, still being able to hit things like Urshifu for super effective damage and knock that out with Tera Blast. So yeah, it's still a very solid Tera type, and the set is just really appreciated. There aren't a ton of special attackers in the metagame, but off the top of your head, it's like Tornadus, Fluttermane, and then a few others, and Heatran fares exceptionally well into those with its Assault Vest especially, and can knock back out with like Flash Cannon. Not knock out in the case of Tornadus, but really it's just doing so little damage on the field, you can kind of just afford to leave it on there. But yeah, the moveset is pretty standard: Heat Wave, Earth Power, Tera Blast, and a Flash Cannon for that steel damage into Fluttermane as mentioned. Last up on the team is Farigiraf, and we haven't seen that much. It's definitely a fringe pick, even despite getting second place at the World Championship, but here we have a Rocky Helmet set to really punish people for, it's a really physically attacking metagame for the most part, so having a bit of extra chip, if something wants to go for U-turn under Farigiraf, which they're incentivized to do because you are a Psychic type, you can just take that extra bit of chip damage, which kind of makes them think twice about it. I really do like that choice. And it is EV to live a, I believe, Terra Water Surging Strikes. I'm not sure from Mystic Water Urshifu, but definitely from a like Choice Scarf Adamant one. And yeah, it's just a very bulky Pokemon that's consistently able to get Trick Room up with the Armor Tail ability in the face of Prankster Taunt. Armor Tail, of course, blocking any priority onto your side of the field, so not blocking your own very notably. That's the advantage over Psychic Terrain, is you can still use your own priority attacks, like which are plentiful throughout the team: Sucker Punch, Extreme Speed, Aqua Jet, and Wood Grassy Glide, of course. And yeah, other notable things about this Farigiraf: it is a Tera Fairy, so if you find yourself against a Dark type attacker, you can go for a Tera Fairy, go for Trick Room, and then go for really powerful Dazzling Gleams after that. Otherwise, the Dazzling Gleams don't really pack much of a punch unless they're into a super effective target. And last but not least, and I do think this detail on the Farigiraf actually does contribute a lot to the team's identity, is the Helping Hand. So a lot of the times you'll be leading something like Urshifu Farigiraf and reading what your opponent has led and figuring out your best option. Having the option to go for a Helping Hand against something like a bulkier Pokemon that would normally be able to live a Tera Water Surging Strikes or Close Combat, having the option to just Helping Hand and blow that thing up can be really, really nice. Additionally, you can also go for a U-turn, switch into your Trick Room Pokemon in the back, and then set up Trick Room, and then at that point, like, Helping Hand, Wood Hammer, even if you don't go for a Tera Grass, is like doing absurd damage and easily knocking out anything that is not a resist, and like doing close to a knockout to even things that do resist. So it's a very potent move on this team, I would say. Once again, shout out to Rinya for sharing this paste, and if you enjoy the videos, the team breakdowns, and the ranked battles, please subscribe to the channel. And with all that being said, let's get into the battles. Okay, up against Sabas, featuring a pretty standard team with an Ogerpon, Water Form, Iron Hands, Landorus, Fluttermane, Kingambit, and Heatran. Okay. Against this sort of team, when I see another Heatran, I am a little worried about going into Trick Room, just because if I lock into a bad move on Dragonite, I can't do a lot of damage against it. Rillaboom has nothing to hit it, and then Farigiraf, again, nothing to hit it, so I am kind of playing the Tera War with it on my Heatran about who's going to Earth Power, who's going to Tera, etc. So I'm kind of interested in opting away from that. But the Ogerpon Water Form is a little scary for Urshifu. Something I've had some good luck with is leading Rillaboom Urshifu against these sort of teams and basically pressuring Fake Out on one Pokemon and then kind of forcing out Ogerpon early and maybe being able to take it out that way. I could see Heatran coming, honestly, into any grass moves. It's interesting, definitely. I do have to be conscious of Iron Hands for sure. I think Farigiraf is staying on the bench. I just don't want to be too weak to the Heatran, truthfully. I think I will just go with my 4 physical attackers here. I do think against Ogerpon Water form it can be a little tricky for this team because you have to time your Urshifu Surging Strikes correctly, be hitting them to the right target, and yeah, we do see Landorus plus Flutter Mane, which I'm totally okay with. Maybe, depends on what item their Flutter Mane is. We do see Grassy Surge activate, so I don't know if Booster Energy activates at the end of the turn, but no, it does not in this case. Okay. So what I'm interested in doing actually is so the obvious play is Fake Out the Landorus and Surging Strikes the Flutter Mane. That's usually going to be a pretty safe knockout. What I have had better luck with is actually faking out the Landorus and going for Surging Strikes into that, because the play is just so obvious. Like, I can fake out the Landorus and then just Surging Strike it next turn. So, might have gotten punished for that. Oh no, that's Flutter Mane. Okay, or shoot, okay, yeah. So I've actually seen variations of this play out, and usually it actually plays out exactly like this, which is kind of interesting. With the Iron Hands coming in on that slot and the Ogerpon coming in on the next slot. So unfortunately, the issue with this turn, I didn't Tera because I didn't want to commit that resource this early. And because of that, the Iron Hands is going to live another turn if it wants to. I don't think I want to play too aggressive yet. I'm going to switch out on the face of potentially a Horn Leech into me, and then go for I think Woodhammer is smart into the Ogerpon. I don't think I'll... well, I actually think I like Woodhammer into the Iron Hands a bit more, just because I can knock that out. I can more easily knock out Ogerpon with my back Pokemon. Like Dragonite, unless they are running a lot of bulk, will be able to fold it over with a Tera Normal Extreme Speed if they go for if I have Chien-Pao on the field. Whereas really it's a challenge to knock out Iron Hands even with all the power on this team, so I want to get as much damage as I can into that. They did double the Dragonite, so that works out exceptionally well for me. And now I have a pretty easy Extreme Speed knockout into the Iron Hands, I think. So one play they could do is switch into the Flutter Mane on the Iron Hands. So to cover that, let's see, do I want to switch out? I'm not facing a lot of pressure on my Rillaboom, so I think I will double the Iron Hands. Like, I could Woodhammer into the Ogerpon, but if they follow me, then they will be getting knocked out this turn. And if they don't follow me, then basically if Flutter Mane comes in, they take a Woodhammer, which they might live, but then they'll be in range of a Grassy Glide, and yeah, it's going to be the Landorus, which should fall to an Extreme Speed plus Woodhammer, would be my guess. Although we are at -2, so I didn't fully account for that. It might live, actually. They go for Ivy Cudgel, maybe reading a switch on the Rillaboom. They didn't have a ton of damage that turn, but I think maybe chipping the Dragonite would have been a little more in their favor, and that does knock out. Just really showing off the power of the Miracle Seed is if we were at neutral attack, that would have KO'd the Landorus, so. This is kind of just... Truthfully, I've played a lot of games with this team on best of 3 ladder on Showdown, so I've kind of gotten a pretty good feel for it, so that's basically all that experience paying off here. I do have to be a little careful, though. So Iron Hands, now I'm kind of just like trying to process all the resources on the board. I think the Iron Hands is getting pretty low. Do I have to preserve my Tera at all? Maybe, maybe not. I could switch out Rillaboom. It does clean out the game pretty easily if I can reset Grassy terrain. I think I will just go for a Tera normal plus Wood Hammer. Oops, I don't know if the Wood Hammer went in, but yeah. Felt like I was missing some inputs on my controller, but it is what it is. Oh, I should have Grassy glided actually. Okay. So this could be a problem actually. I might have lost the game here. Yeah. Maybe what I should have done is extreme speed the Flutter Mane and then go, because I'm not sure I'll live a Dazzling Gleam with both if I extreme speed into a Spiky Shield here. Like the damage might run me. And then I might not have the resources I need to win, truthfully. Because I didn't go for a Grassy Glide or something into the Flutter Mane, I went for a Wood Hammer kind of greedily. That could cost me here. Oh, they went for Moonblast though, which is totally fine. Yeah, that could have been a little bit of a mistake on their part. I think they might have given me an out. But yeah, I definitely wasted my Tera there. I kind of just ran out of time. We see the Wood Hammer damage, and it is very close to a knockout, but unfortunately not a complete knockout. Okay. Let's see. Let's think about this. So they went for a Tera, so I think... I want to switch into... Urshifu outspeeds and threatens a knockout. I might U-turn... I think what I'm going to do is U-turn the Ogerpon and then Grassy Glide the Flutter Mane. That's basically forcing them to follow me here to protect their Flutter Mane. And if they do that, they can't... More than likely on a team like that, it's a Choice Specs Flutter Mane, so they have to go for a Moonblast and not a Dazzling Gleam. That was like I think a mistake on their part if they had gone for Dazzling Gleam. Maybe they take a double KO last turn. It's a little close on the Rillaboom, but maybe they do. And because I didn't go for Grassy Glide, they probably could have closed it out. But yeah, we see them switching out, probably trying to pivot around and get that off. And we see the Grassy Glide going to the... Ooh, it does live. So that's an unfortunate live for me, because they'll probably get a U-turn off into my Chien-Pao, or a Horn Leech, and heal a lot of that damage right off. Okay. So I was expecting the Grassy Glide to knock out the Iron Hands, but it's not the end of the world, by any means. They go for Horn Leech as expected, and it does heal a lot of their HP. Definitely a problem. Yeah, I have to be pretty conscious, because now they can switch out their into Flutter Mane, and maybe close the game out that way. With Follow Me plus... Yeah, the pressure from Follow Me could be an issue. Although I think at this point, Close Combat is going to be really close to a knockout onto their Ogerpon. Is that necessary? I'm not sure. Yeah, definitely an interesting spot. I think I want to protect and Wood Hammer here into the Ogerpon. I'm basically trying to knock out my own Rillaboom and get my Urshifu in, because I think we're at a point where Close Combat might be able to knock out their Ogerpon, but they actually don't go for a Fake Out this turn, which is, again, I think a mistake. So we had a really strong early game, but I think I made a lot of tiny mistakes that could have ended up costing us here. But because they didn't make the perfectly correct plays in the end game, I think we should make it out of it fine, because now we can Close Combat the Ogerpon and Sacred Sword the Iron Hands. If I wasn't sure about the damage roll, I could go for Sacred Sword into the Iron Hands, but it's pretty close. But I do think Sacred Sword's a knockout here. Let me just confirm whether I'm adamant Chien-Pao or not. Yeah, it is adamant, so I'm pretty sure Sacred Sword is a knockout here. Yeah, Sacred Sword, Close Combat should close it, and I don't even have to worry about them being a Ghost type switch in for either of these moves because they went for the Tera. So I think both of us kind of mishandled our Teras here, where I completely wasted the Dragonite, while they kind of mishandled their Tera Fairy Flutter Mane. But that's part of learning with the team, definitely. At least on card, I've definitely gotten a lot of games on Showdown with this team, but the speed of the decision making on a hyper offense team like this, you have to be very, very snappy, making sure you're making the correct plays all the time, because you don't have a lot of leeway to make a mistake when you're playing a team with this little protect, this little room to reposition. You kind of have to make the most of your offensive turns. So we do knock out the Ogre Pawn with the Close Combat, and then Sacred Sword should be a knockout in the Iron Hand, so that's very nice. So now with Sucker Punch and Close Combat, I don't really see a way out for them, unfortunately. Fortunately for us, but not fortunate for them. So pretty competitive game in the first one. I think definitely mistakes made on both sides, but we'll definitely take it. If there's the Sucker to take the knockout. So good game to my opponent. Next one up, though, we have Torkoal, Iron Hands, Flutter Mane, Lilligant, Hisuian Form, Chi-Yu, and Cresselia. So lots of solid Trick Room Pokemon here. Let's see what we can do about it. So traditionally, Heatran very, very strong against these sort of teams, just because you pretty confidently wall Flutter Mane if they haven't locked in the Shadow Ball. Torkoal, they have to go for Earth Power. Chi-Yu, they have to go for Dark Pulse. We have Tera Fairy for that, so lots of really strong options. I think I'll leave Heatran in the back just to be able to potentially go for a late game option that way. So when I see this team, I'm just like first and foremost worried about Lilligant Torkoal as an option, and kind of playing off of that just because the matchup otherwise seems pretty strong for me. Yeah. They don't have any priority blocking, which Torkoal teams usually do, which I kind of want to take advantage of, and augment my bulk with grassy terrain on my Heatran, as well as offer fake out pressure on the few turns that it is feeling any pressure from the opposing Pokemon. Yeah. Also potential Sleep Powder switch in, although I think more than likely against the Lilligants on a team like this where they can go for Terra Ghost if they want to, it's a little better to just kind of play the roulette on it, I think, and let it put you to sleep. But they lead Chi-Yu Flutter Mane, which is fair enough. It feels like they're just going to go Dazzling Gleam Heat Wave, honestly, so I want to switch in my Heatran, truthfully. Maybe bait out a Tera from them. Okay, so they're not going to be able to lock in to a move, really. This is one to, yeah, I think I want to switch into the Heatran because it really forces a Tera out of their Chi-Yu, or the Dragonite on the field. Because I can just knock them out with a Tera normal extreme speed, then it really forces, if they have it, a Tera Ghost, in which case they'll be mincemeat for Sucker Punch next turn. Yeah. They can also just like go for Icy Wind Heat Wave, something like that, Tera Ghost, and we are seeing that they forced a Tera on this turn, and it is the Chi-Yu, which is Tera Ghost, like I said, very weak to Sucker Punch next turn. So ideally they go for like Dazzling Gleam Heat Wave or Icy Wind Heat Wave. Shadow Ball would be a little pesky. Like Dazzling Gleam Snarl would be a bit annoying, but I think kind of unlikely. It would be a pretty aggressive read, and sort of puts them on the back foot against Chi-Yu anyways. So yeah, there was the Heat Wave. Now, with the Beads of Ruin on the field, I do feel very, very safe going for my own Heat Wave. Yeah, they have really no Heat Wave switch-ins. Iron Hand, you could say, switches in, but I wouldn't say comfortably. On some level, I'd be okay with them knocking out Chi-Yu this turn, but also I think just threatening with... Like, obviously they want to switch out Chi-Yu here because I'm threatening Sucker Punch very, very aggressively. But on the other hand, they're not actually threatening too much damage, given, yeah, I think I am actually going to Icicle Crash the Chi-Yu. And they do end up switching, but I'll justify that read here. Lilligant's going to come in here and take a big Icicle Crash. So they go for Moonblast into the Chien-Pao, and we'll see how the turn plays out, I guess, and then I'll explain my thought process there. So, yep, they do lower our special attack, getting all the rolls, and we hit the Icicle Crash, probably bringing them to the Focus Sash. And now we get a Flash Fire Heat Wave off. If we double connect, we're in excellent shape. And we do double connect, okay. Oh, Flutter Mane actually does tank that pretty easily. Not so well that I think it would take a Sucker Punch, though. Yeah, low battery, we get it. Okay, Torkoal comes in. So the reason that I went for a Icicle Crash instead of Sucker Punch that turn, number one, it's obvious they're going to switch because Sucker Punch is very common on the Chi-Yu. If they're not Focus Sash, that's just a knockout on the slot, and they probably want to be able to Dark Pulse my Heatran. But more notably, even if they stay in, if I get the Heat Wave on the Chi-Yu, then it'll be in range of a Grassy Glide, and then I just like have a ton of damage on the board next turn. So it's really, I don't have them pin that turn, but in the turn after that, I'm usually pretty golden. So at this point, I don't want to get Earth Powered too badly, so I am just going to go for a... I could Earth Power the Flutter Mane, but I think... Yeah, I could Earth Power the... Like, go for Sucker Punch into Flutter Mane, assume it doesn't Tera Fairy, and then Earth Power for a more consistent damage onto the Torkoal, but given Sun's up, I have the Flash Fire boost. I think this play forces them to... Like, if they, for some reason, go for Tera Fairy on Flutter Mane, like, maybe they can do something if I miss... Like, if I only target the Torkoal, so I do just want to like get as much damage on the field as possible. So I go for Heat Wave here. It's doing about as much as an Earth Power anyways, right? Yeah, it's nearly a knockout on its own, and they went for the Earth Power, which wouldn't have knocked out anyways, as we can see, into the Heatran, but truly just pathetic damage into the... yeah, the Assault Vest Heatran with the Tera type. I'm going to Flash Cannon the Flutter Mane now, and I think Protect. Really not feeling a lot of pressure from the Flutter Mane. Yeah, they do cancel, yeah. Assault Vest Heatran against a primarily special attacking Trick Room team, definitely a pretty demoralizing one. Don't blame them for the early forfeit after I took out their really only threat that could do any damage to me. And the Lilligant on switch in, so that was just the value of that read. And it was a read, right? We know the Chi-Yu's probably switching out here, but we do have our bases covered. I think that's an important thing to note when you're playing the game is just... Yes, it's like cool to like make the 50-50 read, got him, but even more cool in my opinion is when you have an aggressive read backed up by like failsafe plans. That's generally like if you analyze any like super high level battle, oftentimes even if you see a pretty aggressive read, outside of like some pretty rare circumstances, they aren't without a backup plan. Sometimes the matchup is so bad that a top player will just like gamble everything on one read pretty early in the battle, but oftentimes it is going to be a bit more principled. Wow, okay. Flutter Mane, Roaring Moon, Piloswine, Empoleon, Ogerpon, and Cresselia. So I know Mamoswine gets Oblivious. I assume Piloswine gets it as well, which means it's immune to Intimidate as well as Taunt, I think, but not super relevant for us here. Yeah, it's not going to do that much damage. I think I honestly like the Farigiraf mode a lot here, surprisingly. If I can deal with that darned Roaring Moon, it's pretty good. So I think I'm going to lead I think I'm going to lead with the Chien-Pao to threaten an Icicle Crash into that guy. I like Rillaboom a fair bit. I like Heatran in the back, and then... Ooh, if I could stop Trick Room... I don't know. Does it seem that likely to me that they could live a Extreme Speed with their Roaring Moon? Not Tera Normal, honestly, so I might commit to that early on. And then I think them getting Trick Room up could be tricky. But I think I do pressure enough with Extreme Speed, even in Trick Room against their Trick Room Pokemon. Namely, I guess it would be like Empoleon. Oh, it's weird to think about Ogerpon as a Trick Room Pokemon, but against a team as fast as mine, it can function that way. But I left Heatran on the bench here. Carried a bit too much weight last battle, not expecting it to hit all its Heat Waves. And I do think if I'm able to go for a Tera Extreme Speed, knock out the Roaring Moon, I think that's a big advantage. It is going to be the Empoleon, though. That's interesting. Okay. Alright. So we do see a Photosynthesis Booster Energy on the Roaring Moon. Okay, so it could be Breaking Swipe Roaring Moon. That would be a little pesky. I don't want to get hit by a... This team is kind of predicated on playing aggressive. I think I actually want to double into the Empoleon here. Because I think it will live a Sacred Sword. Or, yeah, I think it will live a Sacred Sword. Definitely if it Teras, but I think if I hit it with an Extreme Speed beforehand, it won't. And I think it's not unreasonable that the Roaring Moon protects here. And if they don't, and they go for Breaking Swipe, then whoops. But yeah, we're not seeing a Tera from them unless they are matching our beautiful Daft Punk motorcycle helmet. So yeah, kind of just like Chien-Pao Dragonite, Womp Womp, turn 1. But we'll see what they go for. They didn't protect. I think we had a pretty safe knockout into the Roaring Moon, but we definitely knocked them out if they're not Choppleberry with Sacred Sword. They did go for Breaking Swipe, so they might have lived the Extreme Speed, truthfully. So that was a really solid lead from them. They could have EV'd to live that. But we do knock out the Empoleon, so that's, I guess, good. Not really. Oops, dropped the controller. Now they can bring in Flutter Mane pretty freely, which is a bit problematic, but not the worst. Yeah, Flutter Mane's in. A bit scary. Kind of want to switch into the Rillaboom. Well, should I? I'm not sure, actually. I could protect, threaten them next turn. Nah, I think I'm going to switch into Rillaboom and go for Extreme Speed into the Roaring Moon. Get some chip damage off there. Maybe we can reveal if they're choice specs on Flutter Mane or not. I would expect it to be, truthfully. Usually on a team with Booster Energy on the Roaring Moon, you'll see a choice specs or a Focus Sash or a Life Orb. We should probably see one of those activate these turns. Just by the way, switching out the Chien-Pao, definitely not knocking out the Roaring Moon this turn. But thankfully... Oh. Thank you. Thank you, RNG, for putting a foot in my mouth and just knocking out the Roaring Moon straight up. Very nice. And based on that damage, crit into the... Yeah, that wasn't choice specs, actually. Okay. So they probably went for Breaking Swipe, which is probably good for them. I think I probably would have been able to Sucker Punch, Grassy Glide, the... they never set up Tailwind, did they? Ooh, that's really good. At this point, I do feel reasonably confident. Let me just verify that. Yeah, no Tailwind went up, which is going to be really problematic for the Chien-Pao in the back. Do they have... They don't have... Well, they could have Grassy Glide, but they don't have a setter for it. So I think I'm going to go Grassy Glide in the Flutter Mane. I'm going to do Near Knockout on that and go for Extreme Speed into Ogerpon. Definitely can't emphasize how bad that crit was for them. Getting Tailwind up would have been really appreciated for them that game. A Breaking Swipe would have reduced the damage into the Grassy Glide on Flutter Mane severely. Like, if they're not a bulky Flutter Mane, this Grassy Glide has a good chance to knock out. Yeah, and I think that's Focus Sash? Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. But as you can see, like, just incredible damage coming out from that. Kind of interesting they went for a Moonblast and not a Dazzling Gleam, though. Given they saw how much damage it did to Dragonite last turn, it would have definitely knocked out. Would have knocked out Chien-Pao on switch in, so not totally sure what they were going for there. Yeah. So between these two, who do I like? I think It's interesting. I basically just need to get this battle so I have two Pokemon, like a Pokemon next to Urshifu on the field at a time. So here's what I think I'm gonna do. Let me verify Grassy Terrain turns really quickly. 3 turns. I think I should be good to just go for a Grassy Glide, Surging... No, definitely don't. Surging Strikes here. I could U-turn, chip the Ogerpon down, which I think is probably what I'm going to go for, right? Actually, the Flutter Mane should be in range of this as well. So what I'm going to go for is U-turn into the Flutter Mane. They are forced to follow me. Yeah, they're forced to follow me here. I guess given I went for U-turn, I probably should have Grassy Glided the Ogerpon to chip it a bit. And I am regretting not going for that, actually. Because now I could lose to Hornleech. Yeah, that was a mistake. Like, if I would hammer the Ogerpon there, I think I always win. But now it's a little dicey if they're a bulkier one. Yeah, gonna be close. If Hornleech knocks out my Chien-Pao... Oh, the Ivy Cudgel. The Rillaboom, which... I don't know, maybe? I don't totally get. But yeah, that works out for me. I think that was a bit of a misplay on my part, not either Grassy Glide or wood hammering the Ogerpon, because then it would have been in range for Surging Strikes no matter if they're out of Tera or not. But with Sword of Ruin on the field, they should always fall, and then I'll go for Sucker Punch on the chance that they are going for their Tera type and they have Grassy Glide without having the Rillaboom Grassy Surge on their team, but they don't have that, so thankfully able to close that out with some good luck from the Extreme Speed, which is the advantage of using a more proactive team with a lot of priority. You do have the option to knock them out before they can hit you if you get a critical hit. So yeah, that worked out in our favor. I wonder what the Empoleon was going to go for turn 1. You have to run a lot of bulk on that Roaring Moon to be able to live the Terra Normal Extreme Speed, and I would have put a lot of damage on the board with the Sacred Sword Terra Normal Extreme Speed, so might have been more valuable to just, given I have Rillaboom in the back to handle the Empoleon, just get after the Roaring Moon. But yeah, I was in a bit of an unfamiliar situation against an unfamiliar team and did the best I could and got a bit of luck to bail me out. Okay, so their team, I think the main issue, like, I think Rillaboom or Urshifu very, very strong against a lot of their Pokemon. The one issue is the Iron Hands at the Ogerpon, otherwise I could Surging Strikes pretty freely outside of potential Tera on the Volcarona. I think Heatran could fare pretty well here, actually, so I think I might go for that on lead, along with... I could go immediately for Trick Room, but I think that's a bit obvious on my part. I think I'm going to go Urshifu, switch into the Rillaboom if I need to with U-turn, and then last up I'm going to go... I think actually solo Dragonite fares decently well here, even without the damage from Sword of Ruin. I can do a lot to the Landorus and just outpace that. And if they go for any cheeky Terras on like King Gambit, then I can just snipe that with Extreme Speed if I get a bit of damage on it. But definitely can't sleep on King Gambit plus Ninetales. That's a super scary combination. They go Volcarona Ninetales, fair enough. I do think this is not like a free knockout by any means, but I do... Like, I think Volcarona almost always either switches into Ogerpon or goes for a... like Tera of its own here. So I could close combat the Volcarona. That'd be an option for sure. I think the option I like a little better is actually Flash Cannon the Ninetales and U-turn the Ninetales in case they're like Focus Sash and pave the way for my Dragonite a bit. We are seeing a Tera from them. I was honestly tempted to go for a close combat into their Volcarona, but I think that's just such an aggressive play. It is Terra Dragon, okay. Tera Dragon, probably Heat Wave Bug Buzz. They don't really have any damage output into my Heatran. And U-Turn plus Flash Cannon should almost certainly knock them out. I don't really want to take a Heat Wave here. I probably don't regardless. Who could they switch in after here? Probably Ogerpon. I think I'm going to go into the Dragonite. I might be able to relatively freely lock into Outrage. Roar Veil goes up. I think 4x super effective Flash Cannon should knock out the Ninetales, but it is, you know, I'm always surprised by what Aurora Veil is able to accomplish. Okay, there is the Flash Cannon. They get the Quiver Dance off, so Heat Wave was going to do negligible damage anyways, especially after the Tera. And we would have burned ourselves for sure. So to handle Urshifu, a lot of the time they are Heat Wave Giga Drain. I'm wondering if that is what they are here as well. Landorus comes out, okay. So that's obviously threatening Stomping Tantrum, which is a little scary. I think I should honestly beat the Heatran late game with... They could U-turn the Heatran, definitely. Do I want to commit my Tera this early to Tera Fairy? Not really. Do I want to commit my Tera to Tera Normal? I don't think so, given they're unlikely to be Tera Blast Dragon, I think. So I think I will switch in Rillaboom. Do I need the Rillaboom for anything? Ogerpon could be nice. Yeah, I think I'm going to switch into Rillaboom and go for an Outrage. Just because I have a 50-50 shot to just one-shot the Volcarona, and if I get damage into the Lando, great as well. They could go for Rock Slide here, which would be annoying, but you know, it's really dependent on the Volcarona's coverage slot here. They go for Rock Slide though, good play. Does a lot to Dragonite. We'll see how much they do with... They crit the Rillaboom, and they go for Flamethrower into the Dragonite. They can't flinch me though. They can burn though. Outrage unfortunately goes into the Lando. That's a bit of an issue, especially because we don't knock them out. But that's not the end of the world. We could go fake out Tera Normal into the Lando and hope we... Oh, that's a lot of damage. Cool. Now we'll knock out with Grassy Glide next turn. We could have gone fake out into the Volcarona, Tera Normal, and then maybe live the Rock Slide, and then like get another chance at the Volcarona, but we don't get it, so fair enough. We are probably just going to have to endgame this Landorus with our, or the Volcarona with our Heatran, which I think is doable with Tera Fairy. Let's see, who could they have in the back here? Iron Hands, Ogerpon, Kingambit. I think I'm always going for Tera Fairy in this battle. Protect on the Rillaboom seems strong for me here. Maybe I want to get after their Volcarona, actually. I'm not sure. They're probably left over something like that. I think it's probably the best strategy just to go after the Landorus. Like, if this is Iron Hands, they honestly won't take a lot from the Kingambit. Okay, so I could have gone for Heat Wave, but eh. We'll see if they're Assault Vest or anything like that. Would have been a good turn to switch out into Urshifu, though, for sure. Because they likely go for Flamethrower into the Heatran, or the Rillaboom slot, in which case we can maybe sneak in an Aqua Jet or a Close Combat if we're lucky. But now it's just going to be difficult. They are Flamethrowering into the Rillaboom, fair enough. Based on how they've played the battle, I don't think they'll go for a read and like Giga Drain the Rillaboom. They could, but I doubt it. See how much this does. That kind of feels like it's potentially Assault Vest, I'm not sure. And they are healing too. Yeah, this I might have sealed my fate by actually going for the Tera there. Why did I go for Tera? I really might have opened myself up there. Because we don't have the benefit of Intimidate that they do. Yeah, I should have just gone for Heat Wave last turn. Oh, they go for Protect, fair enough. Let's see what they go for on the Volk. Another Quiver Dance. Okay, that's pretty bad. Because if they have Giga Drain, now they just like get to go for it. Let's see. It is good that they didn't go for Heat Wave or something. I think we crit the Volcarona that turn, which is like not probably overly relevant. The Snow stops, which isn't gonna amount to Auroraville going away because they are Light Clay on the on that guy. Would have been really cool to go for close combat, immediately Terra Blast into the Volk a couple turns ago, but ultimately not what I went for, so bit of an issue. Maybe I should have been Terra Blasting this whole time into the Volcarona, probably, but I was a little worried about Ogerpon in the back and I needed to start getting damage there. Yeah, okay. If they Giga Drain here, I probably lose anyway, so I'm just going to assume they don't go for that and go for a Heat Wave onto the Kingambit and see how much that does. If we can get a timely crit into the Kingambit, we could be fine. But yeah, we're... Oh, they switch out. Interesting. Very interesting. So if we connect on this, then we just knock out their Lando. Yeah, it was Giga Drain, which does so much damage, actually. Okay. They get a crit, but given we're just going to fall to a Flamethrower anyways, is kind of negligible. Go for the Heat Wave. We do connect on Lando. And we are actually stalling out their turns of... Yeah, we stall out the Grass, which is, I think, good. We are stalling out Auroraville slowly but surely. They should have 2 turns left, which is cool. I think I'm going to fake out the Volcarona and Heat Wave here, just because they have played pretty passively with Kingambit. I think if they had Iron Head, they would have gone for it a little bit a while ago. I think at this point they're likely the Black Classes Swords Dance set. They protect the Volk, fair enough. And they go for Protect on Kingambit. Also fair. I'm not sure how I want to play this on Game Out. I think maybe I go for Heat Wave into the Kingambit. That might put it into range for a... Maybe it puts it in range of Aqua Jet, I'm not sure. They go for Sucker into the Rillaboom, that's fair. Oh wait, oh I'm so silly. Going for Tera was such a bad play, just because now they just do so much damage with Giga Drain into my Heatran. That was so bad. Why'd I do that a couple turns ago? Yeah, I have no clue. Yeah, that's not anywhere near a knockout on the Kingambit. That was super bad on my part. Now I need a crit. Yeah, Auroraville finally wears off. I don't think it's going to matter at this point, because Aqua Jet is nowhere near a knockout on Kingambit, unfortunately. We have to probably crit a Tera Blast, which is a pretty bad spot to be in. I think I probably just maximize the chances of eventually getting that off, though, and just go. Yeah, that's super bad. They do protect Kingambit, so if for some reason they don't Giga Drain here, we have a chance. Because we should get it in 2. But yeah, there is the Giga Drain. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Yeah, I think if I just hadn't gone for the Heatran Tera, we would have been fine. I don't really know why I did, because now we need to crit them. Yeah, and we don't, not even nearly. If we'd been going for Tera Blast early in the battle too, yeah, I'm just really, really questionable play on my part in this one. Like, the Volcarona was definitely a Pokemon we could have beaten, but I just, like, brain farted against it a couple times. I think win condition at this point, live the Giga Drain, Tera Blast, knock them out. Because Sucker Punch is doing a chunk, but if we can somehow survive, like, we are out of range of the Dazzling, or the Sucker Punch. So if we crit the Tera Blast, we should win here. But yeah, that's a big ask. Okay. That is unfortunate for them. Yeah, that's brutal for them. I think this was a really readily playable game for me, and I just played super bad. Like, I should have been peppering Tera Blast. Granted, I did expect the Ogre Pawn angle in the back. I think that's a little better for them than what they went for. So I needed to get damage immediately into that, but yeah, just basically get bailed out of that. So thinking back, obviously that's not a consistent enough way to win. So in the earlier game, I thought about close combating the Heatran, and that would have been an option, but probably not the best one, or the most consistent one. Maybe it is though. Like, now that I think about it, like no player is leaving in their Volcarona to get Surging Strikes there. I don't think the value of like potentially getting a burn is worth losing your Volcarona straight up. So you're always Terraring, and if you don't like have Tera Flying or Tera Fairy, you're taking a ton from close combat. So if I'm just going for Flash Cannon into Ninetales, or maybe even like Flash Cannon close combat or Tera Blast close combat into the Volcarona, that's an instant knockout. They've lost their Tera most likely, or they've switched into Ogre Pawn, they've switched into King Gambit. Even Landorus isn't going to switch into the Surging Strikes in the first place. Iron Hands could take that, but it would take a ton from Tera Blast close combat. Yeah, I think I could have played more aggressively in the early game, which is generally the mistakes made with this team are like, oh, I could have made a more aggressive read, just because it is such a, there's so much offensive tools at your disposal. And then in that mid game, yeah, I was expecting Ogre Pawn, but I think even given that, maybe I'm supposed to get a bit more aggressive. Yeah, definitely don't Tera the Heatran, because I probably would have won that endgame if I hadn't just Tera'd the Heatran anyways. So yeah, mysterious mindset for going for Tera on the Heatran. Don't do that. And then yeah, a little bit more aggression on the early game targeting, just because Urshifu applies so much pressure, you can kind of just count on your opponent to react to it at a high enough level, and definitely did not do that. Just played a really passive turn one with the Urshifu and got way behind and had to get bailed out of it. So that is going to do it for our battles today, featuring Rinya's Farigiraf, Dragonite, kind of priority spam, hyper offensive team. I really enjoy the team. I think it has a good blend of really offensive components as well as a solid Trick Room mode in the Farigiraf Rillaboom Heatran that you can kind of switch in and out of at will. It's really on your opponent to predict when you're going to be bringing Farigiraf, if they have their own Dragonite and Chien-Pao and just general priority options. If you surprise them with a Farigiraf that usually wouldn't be brought in the matchup, it can actually swing things considerably. Beyond that, I do just think it's a really incredible team. We saw it get second place with Aurelian Sula at the LAL Regional. Overall, we went undefeated with it in battles, and I hope you guys saw the strength of the team. If you enjoyed the battles, please subscribe to the channel. And with all that being said, peace y'all.